How'd you feel right before you died? Were you like relieved because you were suffering, or was like, oh my God, now what? Is it going to be blackness? Is this over? What were your final thoughts or in those days or moments, whatever?
He said I should have raised more hell, is what he said.
That's thought.
But you know, he said he served a purpose, and
Yeah, of course.
he said what he did was he got everybody thinking.
Yeah, that's
Um, yeah, that's what he said. But did he says when you get to that point, it's like you're okay. Okay, I'm ready to go.
yeah. Okay, so it was that. Yeah, you just
Yeah.
couldn't take it anymore. All right, we'll talk about your moments after your transition. But did anyone come close to getting that $1 million?
When something about earlier, there was, I feel like, what he's showing me, like two, maybe three people, he says were pretty good. I feel like it was two males and a female that were doing that. They were pretty good at it. But he says, he kind of laughs. He goes, "How do you prove this?"
So it would have to be you repeat the proof, repeat, repeat. Was it
Mm.
something like that that you wanted, like in science, repetition of the experiment?
He said, basically, it's like, okay, show me that happens again. Show,
Yeah.
and to where he couldn't explain it off. But he says, you can kind of explain everything if you give yourself some time, like, oh,
Yeah.
well. And but
Could
he
explain
says
it away, you mean?
yes, like, oh, well, it was this or that, or that could have happened to anybody or whatever. But he says, it's um these things that happen to you, he says, they happen to you. And it's, yes, you can have shows and everything just like we're doing now. But he says if a person's mindset isn't in that energy field,
Yeah.
then it doesn't matter.
Oh, of course not. Um, uh, okay, you were gay. Did that have anything to do? Oh, yeah. First of all, did you even have $1 million to give away and to begin with? I'm gonna forget if I don't ask that now.
He said yes, he did. Yes, he did,
How did you earn?
because he had to, uh when you do something like that, you have to be able to back it up. And he says, otherwise, if I didn't, I'd be just like these other people, these other
Oh,
frauds. Yes, he did. I feel like he maybe would have had to sell some assets or something, but he would have been able to come up with that money.
how did you make that money? Was it inherited? Did you have a career as well, an accountant, playboy, gigolo? I don't know. You tell me.
Um, he said in the work that he did, and he said, believe it or not, I got sponsors.
Oh,
He said, I feel like I guess he was a writer because he's showing me writing,
okay.
or something like that.
So ad revenue for YouTube, things like of that nature. Basically, you made money off of this whole thing of yours, this whole deal.
Yes, he said, he goes, yes,
Oh, I believe you.
people were fascinated by
They're my
this.
sponsors. Y'all who've been sponsoring James Randi, come on over to my side. All right. I'm kidding. All right. What, when you transition, tell me about your transition. Like who you met, what you saw, what your thoughts were, everything that you can explain.
You know, because I didn't have a belief system of, am I good enough? I'm going to hell.
Yeah.
I'm going to what people call that middle place. Some religions call it different things, a holding tank or whatever. He says, because he didn't have those beliefs, he didn't have those hangups. But he said there was, this is true, he says, there was like an angelic type force energy.
Mm.
And he knew, I feel like the day that he was transitioning, he knew that it's like he's showing me, like he knew to go through the door number one. And he said that he's showing me it's like a bluish yellow white energy, and he says it's angelic, and he knew that that was the way to go. Um, and
You
I'm
mean
asking
these are death bed visions of yours?
that he could feel. He said he could feel, yes, and he could,
Oh,
yes, they were, because he was transitioning his last day, and he said, and it's this energy, he says, and I laugh at him saying that because you don't really see energy like as in our physical eyes, like like he's talking about, but he just knew it was a safe environment. It's like, this is where to go. It's like, to go sit at the table to eat. So he knew to go with this.
what did you go ahead.
He says he's showing me a brother on
Hmm.
the other side. So I don't feel like this brother was old when he transitioned. I don't know anything about it, but he also tells me his parents were there, and he said it's almost like he had to laugh because he was proven wrong.
Well, what was the one thing that made you think, oh crap, there is an afterlife? Was it meeting a specific family member? What was it? Because I mean, you could think, well, I'm just hallucinating. That's what my dad thought, he was hallucinating until he saw Erik, and he said, well, I would never think about Erik, so it must be true. Rude asshole.
He's showing me his parents.
Oh, seeing them was it?
Yes, because he really believed that when you go, that's it. So you don't see them.
Yeah. But what's to make you think that, well, I'm just hallucinating seeing them? You didn't think that?
He said no because of this angelic energy when he was crossing. It's like he was already in that energy of knowing where he was going.
Oh, I
It's
see.
like, and he said, and that's what it is. He's telling me it was a knowing. It's like you just keep following it.
Did you share that to anybody, nurses, doctors, family members on your deathbed? That, wow, something's happening here, I might be wrong. Or did
He
you?
said he feels like he told somebody, I'm going to be okay.
Oh, okay. All right, good.
Yeah.
You are. Guess what? Um, what was the biggest shocker when you? What was that angelic energy, Erik? What was it? Guardian angel, maybe a guide, a loved one?
Erik says he says, yeah, you could say like a guardian angel, but it was the angelic force letting him know that,
A general angelic force.
yeah, like it's like, yes, come over. He says, well, not general, because it's like this angelic force is like, Erik says, picking up the hopeless.
Oh, is there one? Is there a type of angelic force that does that? Picks up the sprays? Is that a thing?
He said it's not a particular one, but it's just a group of them that
Oh,
that do this. Like they come and help the less
oh,
fortunate, and when I say the less fortunate, not the ones that didn't have much food, but it has to do with their,
belief.
yes,
Yeah.
and bringing them over.
So, was the thing that shocked you the most after you crossed over seeing your parents or seeing this angelic thing?
He said the angelic thing was very comforting. It was
Oh,
very a safe feeling. So that one, he says, I didn't get scared or like, no, I'm making this. That was, he says, it's like,
so no shock. There
that
was no shock.
wasn't a shock. It was like it was cocooning you in this safety net.
Oh. So, but was there anything that shocked you out of
Um,
out of your James Randi mentality during your transition?
that everything is on the other side, everything.
Yeah,
And he says that there's no age on the other side.
yeah. So you could be young again, huh?
So he was, yeah, and he says the thing that shocked, he goes, there's a lot of things that like, whoa, like shedding that human suit, he's
Yeah.
saying, um, people call it floating around, flying around, just flowing, he says, just flowing, being fluid. Um, he says, there's the no limits.
Yeah.
And it's almost like, he could breathe and not, he wasn't at battle with anybody trying to prove anything,
Free.
because he was like, it's like all the truth is in front of him.
Yeah. All right. So then you look at your perspective on your opinions and the work that you did when you were human. How did you see them now from your perspective as a spirit, looking down on your opinions and your work?
He said, he
15 minutes or less. Sorry.
he says, he says it did what it was supposed to do. It got people thinking. That's a big part. It got people thinking. But he said, I still had followers, like these other places that I was denouncing. His
Right.
people had their followers. He said he thought it was funny that he had followers, in a sense. But he says it got a lot of people questioning
Okay.
about things about him.
I got to hurry up because Lucas is going to leave. Don't leave, Lucas. I need you to help me with this real quick. I got a few questions. I might have to have a part 2. I don't know. Did you have any dark energy or attachments around you when you were human that was making you try to get people to not believe that there was any whatever or not?
He doesn't want to consider it a dark energy, but he did stay in a lower vibration to keep him from moving forward. Yeah.
Have you met Sylvia Brown on that side?
That's funny you mentioned that, because Erik beforehand was, and he said, this interview is going to be different. I'm not, because Sylvia, he said, did not want to be interviewed. He said in the beginning, and he's not like that. He said, yes, they've had, I don't feel like they had coffee. I feel like it was cocktails or something, the way the glass he's showing me. And he said, yes. And some other well-known people, he said, like well-known from like ancient times and stuff like that.
Wow.
I'm asking him, did you meet Jesus? And he said, that's for another time. But I feel like he did, yeah.
What was your life purpose? I have a feeling it was to teach people something, the masses, like find your own truth.
He said that was it, but it was also to make you question what was going on.
Yeah, good.
Make you question, and it made him question a lot of things.
Yeah. Do you have any regrets? Just real quickly, please.
He said he wished he wouldn't have been so dense and ego driven, and maybe put some thought into what people were telling him, because as he sees it now, he was very intuitive. Like he could have done wonders, with his abilities.
Interesting. Is there anything that about you being gay that was an important factor in you being the whole James Randi $1 million contest kind of guy?
Was there anything about him being gay?
Yeah. Did that did that influence this whole thing at all?
Well, he said it did. He said it had some influence, he's saying, because he's telling me, because there's so much controversy about why you're gay, who's gay, it's all kinds of stories, and nobody could get it, he says, straight. But nobody, everybody has theories. But he said that was something that he really had to search within his own self. And even though he was out and about for the most part, I still don't feel like he was 100% comfortable with it
Okay. All right.
within him, like something just, and he says that's because of
What society is
accept,
you?
yeah, acceptance. He said, most people do, but a lot of people don't.
Yeah, it's terrible. Are you happy now? And
Yes. So when he says that, he takes a deep breath. He goes, yes, there's a lot of freedom. He's showing me he doesn't have any of these still walls up on his thoughts. Everything is, he can see everything. And he's very much still a part here, working here, because he's helping people to explore more
I was going to
about
ask
within
that.
their own self. Yeah.
Do you have any messages to give skeptics, closed-minded skeptics in particular?
Be real clear on who you're wanting to
Disprove?
prove wrong. Yeah, disprove. But he says prove wrong. Be real clear who you're wanting to prove wrong. He says because most people, who they're wanting to do is they're wanting to prove themselves right by
Oh,
proving someone else wrong.
yeah. It's a dick
So he
measuring
says,
contest,
but
basically,
he
right?
says, but be real clear. Be real clear what are you trying to prove.
Right. Do it intelligently, with intuition, with compassion. Don't make it an ego-driven dick measuring contest. That's what you're saying, right?
He laughs.
I got that from Eric, I think, because I
Eric,
wouldn't really
Eric,
say that.
yeah,
Sorry.
Eric's laughing. They're both laughing. They said, perfect.
Okay. Is there another life, very briefly, that most influenced your life as James Randi? And then one more question, I'm done.
He said that he was, in another life, he was a woman who was denied. It's like he didn't have a voice in that life. And I feel like it was like, real old, like
Oppressive.
before, yes, and very old farm type. And it's like being a woman, he couldn't, he didn't have a voice, couldn't speak up, and
And as
just
James
always had,
Randi, you had a voice,
boy, he used it,
and you
obviously.
wanted to make sure other people's voices were truth and not a bunch of
Yeah,
lies. That's pretty.
yeah, and yeah. Yeah.
Is there any other little known thing about you that you want to share? And also, the last thing is I want you to tell me what you think about Erik. Obviously, you met him.
Well, he's telling me that he says everybody wants to know like something personal about him or whatever. And I don't know if he's showing me the bottom of his heel. So I don't know if there's a mole on the bottom of it. There's a black mark or something on the
Okay.
bottom of his
All
heel,
right.
he's telling me. But he wants to answer because he knows it's time to go. But he says, he says you've raised a very nice young man. He
I did.
wants you to know how hard your son is working.
I know. So proud of him.
He looks up to your son. Your son is very it's kind of like he took accelerated courses, he's telling me, like on the other side, what Erik did. And it's like he just is using his time wisely to plow through everything to get clarity to everyone, because as Erik gets clarity, we get clarity. As he gets clarity, we get clarity, because what happens up there flows down here. It's all who wants it. He says he loves Erik, is what he says.
Erik, I miss you.
Yeah. And Erik did point out, though, he says he loves it that you and I we color coordinated ourselves, because that's real important to him, he says.
That's cool. All right. Well, thank you so much. You guys check out Denise Ramon at deniseramon.com. And I love you, Erik. Thank you, Mr. Randi. I really appreciate this.
He said, you're more than welcome. And Erik says, I love you, Mama. And he just kissed you. And I don't know what it is about the color yellow, but he's just shining that all over you.
Oh, thank you. Bye.
Bye. Take care, hon.